Hi, everyone. My name is Mahlet Cuff. I am an artist, curator, and community organizer based in Treaty 1 territory. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm really excited to be in conversation with all the artists of the films that are playing in this program. So the program is called A World of Our Own, Creating Black Queer Utopias. And before we get into the conversation, I just want to thank all the filmmakers for making this fantastic pieces of work. I'm immensely grateful for your existence and storytelling. We have,
yeah. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to Vtape. Thank you so much to Mahlet Cuff, the guest curator, and to all of the artists for being present. We're really lucky to have everyone present right now. Welcome to Vtape. My name is Wanda Vanderstoep. I'm the distribution director at Vtape, where we acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit River, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory, which is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and to protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations, Métis and the Inuit peoples, Europeans, all of us, and newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And to that end, I'd like to say, Anin Bojo, I see your light. Tonight we move to program 2 of the Curatorial Incubator version 17, On the Other Side, It's Heaven. Throughout the fall, we'll be hosting 4 different programs that respond to this theme. All the programs will be available online at the Vtape website, vtape.org. This year, we'll do things a little differently. Each program will begin with an introduction by the emerging curator or collective. And in the event tonight, we are actually going to follow that introduction with the conversation, which will be hosted by Mahlet Cuff. And we will have the conversation before the program in order to accommodate people's varying schedules. Doing things online virtually is always a challenge to get everyone here. And since we have everyone here, we want to make the most of this conversation. It will be followed by the program. We'd like you also to look at the Vtape website under the publications tab, which is on the left side of the site, for the full catalog of this year's Curatorial Incubator version 17, On the Other Side, It's Heaven. All the curatorial essays, program notes, and bios for the artists and curators are there. Tonight, we present the program curated by Mahlet Cuff, and the program A World of Our Own, Creating Black Queer Utopias, features works by 4 artists who each offer a special view into their worlds. Mahlet, take it away.
Thanks, Wanda. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, for coming. We'll have a little discussion and stuff. But the first question I want to ask all the artists, because all these films have such strong themes, you can tell there's a lot of care put into them, and especially for, I'm not going to say especially for all of them. What was the process of making them, and like the inspiration behind it? And we can start with Natalie and kind of go from there.
Hey everyone, hope you could hear me. So grateful to be here tonight. So the question around my process. So my process is different now because of COVID as opposed to then. And then it's a combination of me, thinking up the idea. But for this piece in particular, I'd had some family members that I had lost, like my godmother, and I had lost. And I wanted to try and understand the experience of premature death, right? And how to, how to create some sort of a connection to that, as well as a connection to caring for each other, right? And so that's how this piece came about. And certainly, the poem by Derek Walcott, Love After Love, is a poem that I constantly draw upon. And so I wanted to include that in there. And working with wonderful folks such as Keisha and Danielle and all of the folks behind the camera as well, including the babies and the kids, was a very community experience that I really appreciated and really love as part of what I do. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, it does. Because it's interesting how you mentioned grief, because I feel like when grief like comes together with care, it all comes together, right? And thinking about who you're connecting with and who you're going to collaborate with. And yeah, like Keisha being a part of that process with you. So everyone's kind of like experiencing everything with you, right? It's like, it's your idea, but your process involves other people and also other things other than the main topic, right? There's other themes within it that draw within it, right?
Yes, agreed. And I'm so appreciative that Keisha and Danielle agreed to do this, because it was a performance piece, right? And solely movement. And so voiceovers, of course, but the movement pieces, they were willing to do that, and they did a fantastic job. So very happy.
Amazing. Maybe we can ask Abdi the same question. So what was the process of making this film? Because it was not only you, it's like there's two people in the film, right? Salika and Lee, who are like talking about their friendship and asking them to be a part of this process with you. How was that? And what inspired you to make this film as well?
So this work was made in 3 parts because I wanted to didactically present Black queer friendship in a way that is almost never talked about. But most often our conversations about Black queer life are about negative moments, or the moments that Black queer people must struggle against and overcome. So I hope this work would raise maybe different questions from those that are often addressed through the negative. It wasn't really it was not my desire to displace the ways in which Black queer lives are achieved through struggle, but I wanted to tell a different story, as you would have heard from Lee and Salika if you watched the clip. I also wanted to document how two Black queers might talk about their friendship and how they met each other. It was important for me to document Black queer friendship because it means that we begin to see the fullness of Black queer life and the ways in which Black queer life is both similar and radically different. And the other thing that struck me in making the work was to hear Lee and Salika describe the ways in which they lived communally. For example, the making of community was very central in the form of friendship that they practiced, that was practiced by them.
Right. Yeah, watching this when I was going through like the archives and stuff, and like when I stumbled upon this one, I was like, this has to be a part of the program, because I've never seen like friendship display like that before. I was like, what? People like, we all talk about it like in terms of like table, like when you meet someone at a party or you meet someone at an art show or something, right? And like have it to be displayed, and also them being Caribbean, I'm Jamaican as well. I was like, oh, this is so amazing to see like two friends and then like kind of like teasing each other and like kind of just like going at each other too. And it's like it's so replicative of like what real life is, and then be able to display that in a way too. Like, do you feel like that was healing for them as well, to be able to have those like kind of like almost like constructed conversation, but it was so natural too. It felt like I was like a fly on the wall, like, oh, like I shouldn't be here, but I am, type of thing.
Yeah, the fact is, because I've known them for a while, so I'd met Lee before I met I met Salika before I met Lee, and Salika is the one who introduced me to Lee. And so by just observing them interact, I thought it was very interesting in a way that, because I've also known them for a long time.
Yeah.
And so the conversation just comes freely and flows freely, right? So it's not like it's almost like they don't really see the camera in front of them, right? So that's what makes it very interesting as well. And so in terms of the process, I'll talk about collaboration later, because that's one of the questions has collaboration.
Yeah. Cool. No, amazing. I'm jumping in because like there's so much collaboration in like all these films, which I love a lot, because that's like such a basis of community. But I'll let Io answer the question as well. So what was the process of making your film, which I'm a huge fan of? Like I saw it way ahead. And I was like, oh, I get to program this. I'm so grateful. So big fan.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's funny to watch again because I made that quite a while ago. But the process was, it basically came about because I was in a class that I was really confused about, honestly. Like being in that class was a little bit of a trip, but being an undergrad, my goal became like, don't leave this place without doing something that you kind of like. So even if I was in a class that I didn't particularly understand or like, I was just like, okay, I got to do this. And the assignment, our big final assignment, was to make a knowledge object. And so we mulled over that for a really long time as a class. And I was just interested in making a film. Because I also really just didn't feel like writing. I was having a hard time kind of figuring out how to convey certain things in writing, and wound up just kind of trying to see how I could get out of that. And a film was the way that felt the most true to what I was trying to achieve, which was mostly to showcase the way that language and how the way that knowledge is disseminated through language. And I was also a linguistics student. I dropped out of linguistics, out of the program because I just couldn't handle it anymore. And so this was for a women and gender studies course. And I was just kind of trying to put together two areas that I really loved and try to make them work for me, because linguistics just did not work in my head. It just didn't fit, but I was still in love with language and language acquisition. So I was just interested in querying that a little bit because I wasn't seeing a lot of, for lack of a better term, like queer content in linguistics. And so that's just kind of how that came about. Me being as creatively defiant as possible and trying to kind of get out of doing assignments in ways that I didn't feel like. So.
No, that's amazing. Because yeah, it's fun. It's interesting because my next follow-up question with that, it's like, did you think this film would become this thing that's like, living and breathing and people are also responding to it, since it became like, it was more of an assignment, right? When you have an assignment for class, you're like, oh, whatever, will go away. But it's still here.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. I just, it kind of, it came together. I just rented equipment one day and took my camera to a friend of my siblings' place who I knew would be really good on camera. And it was a lot of back and forth and trying to coordinate and trying to make plans. And I had some questions, like it was pretty vague, but, and if you watch the film, it's kind of a little bit of like a call and response. And a last minute decision was to kind of make myself a little bit of a part of it. And it just kind of worked really well. And I didn't really expect it to go much further beyond this, because it was still something that I was using to try things out. Like I was very newly into documentary as a medium. So it still feels weird to talk about it a little bit because I'm just like, oh, we're still watching this. So that's
And it's relatively new too. Like it came out in the last couple of years. So it's like this new thing, but in your brain, it's like from the past.
Oh yeah. Because also
ago.
like doing that in undergrad, like in my late teens, I think. So it wasn't it's something that I just feel like I hope I've grown a lot. And so it's an interesting thing to watch and with perspective.
Cool. And then lastly, we'll move on to Keisha, and then we'll ask the next question about collaboration. So yeah, what was the process of making your film? Because your film is so different from what I've seen before. It's like there's music, there's like conversations, there's like poetry. It's just so many different things that ties well together. So what was the process of doing that?
Oh, okay. There's so many things that I'm thinking about and identify with everyone who's shared already. So it's really nice to be in space where we're understood, where we understand each other, and where we can like acknowledge and validate our experiences. I would say that the process, like similar to Io, I was really new to film in general. This was my first film ever. And so I didn't quite know, I was learning the process as I was going. But I knew that I wanted to bring what I bring to community gatherings, because if you think about it, the creation of a film is that, right? Like we're coming together for a common vision and, creating something together that then lives on its own. But it is an event to create it. And so I wanted to make sure that, folks felt safe, that they understood the project, that they were comfortable sharing themselves, because the film is like an experimental doc. So there's, true stories and personal accounts. And so I wanted to, make sure that people were comfortable doing that. And then also, there's the piece around like telling the New Jersey Force story. And I knew that in that telling that I wanted to make sure that I didn't re-traumatize people. So I thought a lot about what the imagery was going to be, and what things people would see as we were talking about this story. And I wanted to make it a little bit more manageable for us to walk through or go through. And so, I basically decided to not visually show negative things, but rather to highlight community in that moment, and what it might look like for a group of Black femmes to be in community, walking down the street, etc. So, my process was really just wanting to bring Black femmes together and wanting to really just like show us in a light that was respectful and educational, and also our own.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of times when unfortunately we watch things about our own communities or like Black people specifically, it's like a lot of trauma porn and then a lot of things thrown at your face, where this one was like very healing to watch, even though there's obviously like a lot of stories that were like traumatizing the people that like had gone through them, but there's like this like end goal of like everything will be good, like everything will be okay, no matter like all the things that we struggle with, which is important to highlight. Like we have each other, we have community, and I think you highlighted that really well. And like consent is such a no-brainer thing to, like, to me, and probably to most of you. So I think it's such a key part of also filmmaking too, when you're working with a lot of people, is like to have that consent and to make sure that everyone feels good. And because their stories are being portrayed as well on forever almost, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we're here, like 11, 12 years later almost. So
Amazing. So we'll move on to the next question. So it's been kind of touched on a little bit. So in these films, collaboration is definitely a key. Then Keisha and Natalie's films, there are overlaps of similar faces. So I'm going to start with Natalie, since we started with just ended off with Keisha. So what does it mean for you to collaborate with others and the importance of collaboration? So Natalie, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So collaboration is key, for me at any rate, and definitely I will go off of what Keisha said, that it is when you make a video or a film, it's often just more than one person in the room. So you're always connecting with people, and also the energy that comes with that. And I love working with, Keisha and some of the other artists that I tend to work with often, because there is a dynamic that I see on screen, but also in, behind the screen, I guess, or before the camera goes on, that I feel very much supported by. So the idea of, the world of queerness, it's like constructing a world of queerness, Black queerness on screen, but also, behind the screen, right? Like before we turn on the camera, right? And so I find it to be something that is very supportive of me, myself as a person, but also I try to think about what I do as a way to support community, to reinforce community, and to, really put stories of Black queer folks out there. So I think, and And for me, I mean, this is why COVID has been so difficult, because I'm someone who works, I feel like I'm someone who works best with people. And so having to shift my thought process around that has been really difficult. And also, oh, and the other thing was, as a mother, right? It's very hard for me to find time to do artwork. Mm-hmm. So often what is beautiful about film and video is you think of the idea, you create the storyboard, you email people, and then you go, okay, when can we all meet? Right? And then you organize it, everybody comes, and you shoot in a day or a day and a half or something. So that's how I had worked the creation of the video itself and all the other videos that I've done. So
yeah, it's a lot of behind the scenes work that people just don't see, right? Like emailing people, scheduling people, making sure everyone can kind of like grappling people, because like everyone has different schedules and you can't meet this day, but you can meet this day, and trying to like bring everyone together for like this end result of your film or other films you've done as well.
Exactly. And you also have to cater. You have to make sure that people get there, right? Like, and you want to do that. Like, you just want to do that, right? And it's not a task really, or like it's just, you want to feed people, right?
Yeah.
So
like, yeah, the care is put into there, like a lot of care. Like, can someone get here? Are you guys, you also have kids as well, right? Like, are there other mothers or parents who are on set as well, as you probably know? Amazing. Maybe Keisha wants to go next?
Sure. Can you repeat the question? I know it's about collaboration, but I want to make sure that I address it in particular.
Sure. Yeah. The question is, what does it mean for you to collaborate with others, and the importance of that?
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, yeah, I believe that collaboration is really key to all of my work. As we've been saying, it takes a community or a village or a group of people to come together and create that. A lot of my work has centered, if not all of my work, centers Black femmes, and, highlighting, visibilizing our experience. And I feel that collaboration is so key to that in terms of my survival in particular. Like, as a Black femme, unfortunately, we experience a lot of isolation. And so the act of creating and collaborating and coming together really addresses that in my personal life and also in my artwork. So it really, kind of feeds me and heals me on many different levels. And then when people are able to see and consume the work and it touches them, that feeds me in a different way. So really, I believe that I'm involved in film to collaborate, and that I use my films as tools to collaborate as well, right? To speak to people, to promote health, and to really raise awareness around intersectional experiences and marginalizations, and what that feels like and looks like, and how things are intertwined. So for me, it definitely makes sense to collaborate. I also feel like that's my guarantee that other people get it. At least some other people get it. So I feel like, film doesn't get made by one person, and that collaboration is very key to all film processes, I think, healthy film processes. But in particular, I think it's just seminal to my work and to, I think, Black femme experience as well.
Right. Because it's your idea and your experiences, but also you're able to ask other people, do you relate to this too? And if you want to be a part of this, come on board and we can make a film about this, or have their thoughts, right? And if they have maybe critiques, oh, maybe you could do it this way because this is my experience as well, and having that back and forth dialogue, or
and hearing people say your thoughts and feelings that you could not articulate, you know, there's just nothing like that. Yeah.
The relationality within your community is oh, you feel that too? Oh, thank God. I feel this for how many years type of thing, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Can I jump in?
Oh yeah,
I
totally.
agree. I completely agree. And another aspect is that there is such an absence of Black life stories, like stories relating to Black life, but also to queer Black life. That's a whole other, right? And then all of the other communities within the queer Black community, right? That the idea of collaborating is in the creating of the video. You're also creating, a space for community, right? And definitely, I agree with Keisha that it's the other level of actually having folks see the work and being part of that experience and sharing in that is also another added piece to this, which tends to bring Black life front and center, but also bring the community together. So yeah, I just want.
Yeah, and Abdi, I loved what you said about talking about the fullness of Black queer life, and being able to just flesh that out. I thought it was such a beautiful way to articulate that, and I wanted to mention.
Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, Abby, you want to talk about the collaboration between Lee and Salika and yourself and how that all worked out, but also the importance of collaboration to you.
Yeah, so collaboration to me is very important. And I think collaboration is the one that actually makes or breaks the work, right? So the longer you have relationships with individuals that you have incorporated into your artwork, it actually would show, right? So when you look at a film, except for instance, the only difference would be if you have to pay people. Like you can tell the difference between paid paid participants and participants who are actually there because they actually realize that the work that you're doing is more important, right? Or it has value to them, right? So for me, when I was creating this work with Lee and Salika, what dawned on me was just the interactions between the two of them. And an essay that I'd read a long time ago by Foucault titled Friendship as a Way of Life actually made sense to me, right? Because by observing Lee and Salika in the trilogy, I was reminded of the truth of that essay itself. So when you look at Lee and Salika, both of them are of Caribbean descent. Even I'm continental. I'm from the East Africa, Somalia. But Lee is Trinidadian, and Salika is from Jamaica. So like I said, I met Salika before she transitioned. And I met Lee with Salika. So both of them have also been out in the Toronto LGBT queer scene in the village for a long time. And both of them have big personalities, as you can see from watching the film, the videos, but in very different ways. And Lee is very active in the spiritual Baptist community, which is a Yoruba-based religion from Trinidad. In my view, I see Lee's religion shaping his worldview more than his queerness. And in fact, when you listen to Lee and Salika talk, you hear the admiration they have for each other. But you also come to realize that the admiration is not simply because they're two queers, but it's also because it's rooted in something else. So his religious beliefs. Lee's religious beliefs. It is noticing that admiration that arrived in Black queer affection. And for me, Black queer affection is about friendship, but more importantly, it is about being able to articulate the sense of affection. So in the film, both Lee and Salika show in a number of ways, both verbal and otherwise, how much they care for each other, right? And so this was one of the reasons I wanted to document that experience.
Right. I think it's just a beautiful film because you get to see their friendship and how they're able to communicate with one another and be in conversation with another as well, just because talking about their own lives, specifically first as two separate people, then coming together and being together, right? It shows there's a lot of love and care for their even like, like you mentioned before, like it is about queerness, but just more than that, right? It's about them being together and friends and love and care and teasing each other and being critical of each other, but also understanding where they're both coming from and being like very empathetic and sympathetic of each other as well.
But also when you hear Lee using certain words as a tranny, for instance, which is kind of like a very derogative word. So, but because when he's talking about Selika, he's using that term, but he's not using it in a derogative kind of way, right? Meanwhile, and she's sitting there and she's not saying anything because she realizes that the word that he's used, because sometimes language is very different, right? And there's certain words that people use to attack people or to kind of like put down people, but then they also have words that are used in kind of like in a more affectionate kind of way, right? And so that's what I see Lee when he uses the word tranny, and that's exactly what he means, right? He doesn't mean it in a kind of like a derogative kind of way.
Right. You have a question. So for Io, so how was it collaborating with Bobby? Because that you mentioned before, it's like through a friend of a friend and making that connection with him.
Yeah, so that was interesting. The way I kind of thought of that question initially was like collaborating kind of behind the camera. So which I didn't do, so I was kind of sweating. But with Bobby, it was honestly pretty easy. Like it felt, he's a very easy person to talk to. And I kind of had my questions before breaking the ice a little bit. And I don't know, I think of the collaborative element of this film and most of my films as having a life outside of just shooting the film, because not only am I considering my my interview subject my collaborator, but in a sense I'm also thinking of my audience as my collaborators as well, because of the call and response of a film like this, which is also why I have people who I'm interviewing look in the camera. Like I invite them to do that so that when they don't look at the camera, it's kind of like it feels like there's like a reason or a deliberate reason that they're doing that. And so and again, and not only that, I'm during the editing process bringing people in for their opinions, but I'm also like leaving and coming back and trying to kind of like even maybe be patient with like other parts of myself and collaborate with other parts of myself. And it's honestly, the collaborative element is a challenge, I will say, because you never know what kind of interview subject you're going to get, especially if you don't know them. But it's always a very rewarding challenge because it teaches you a lot about yourself and about how to approach different situations. But yeah, I think, and if you see some of my other films, whether documentaries or music videos and stuff like that, where I'm collaborating with musicians, it's very important to have a good relationship with people, because it's, like Abdi said, you can tell when something is not necessarily if you paid someone or not, but like you can tell if there's weird vibes. Like it comes across in the project. I've had to throw away some projects because of that. So yeah, it's great.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, if the person's not comfortable, if you're not comfortable, everyone's just uncomfortable, it's like maybe it's not the project to do it. Maybe it's a different thing. Maybe with different people, it can be shifted to be. Also, you're saying too, like it's a challenge because you want to be flexible and try to like change things and be open to that change, right? When you work with other people, maybe they have a different.
Yeah, and adapting. Like when you get there, I'm a very like intuitive filmmaker. Like I don't love storyboarding that much, and I don't love planning extensively. But like sometimes getting there and realizing that like there's potential there to do something else, or like something's completely off limits. And I feel like that speaks to like the readiness that you kind of, me personally, like have to have for the collaborative, like being open enough to like in another film that I did, like go to an alpaca farm and then make the alpaca farmer a part of your project because she's very charismatic. Like it's just like, thank you for introducing us to these wonderful animals. You're also great. Please sign this release form. Like that.
Like sign it, you're great. You're a Kumin actor. Get into that too. The next question I'm going to ask, actually I'll ask you as well, Io. So thinking about finding each other within queer communities, but specifically Black queer communities, can be like really hard and fun. And I kind of talk about in my essay how it's like really complicated, like meeting people through like dating apps, meeting people randomly, trying to like make community and stuff. And also, I'm really curious about this question because I asked this question to the audience when they do watch this program is, so how have you been able to create versions of like heaven in your own communities, especially when it's oftentimes not accessible to us?
This is tough. This is a really hard question to answer.
I know.
I honestly, like, I don't know. I think a lot about the way that I approach building community, obviously through my interpersonal relationships. But I'm the kind of person to always at least try the thing. Like I'm gonna at least try to reach out to somebody or try to. This is gonna be a really this feels like it's gonna be a bad answer or whatever. But yeah, like I just feel like I'm always willing and ready to reach out to somebody and then take the potential like failure or ghosting of that interaction in good faith, because I'm just so excited by the potential of connection, and I might retake this question because I don't want to just like talk out of my, I don't want to pull things from it. I'm very out of it, so please pivot and then maybe come back to me and see what happens.
Amazing. No, it's all good. Abdi, do you want to go next? How are we able to create your own versions of heaven or like find community? Yeah. Ooh, you're muted.
Could you repeat that again?
Yeah, sure. So like kind of finding each other within queer communities, but specifically for Black queer communities, can be hard and fun and filled with joy and so much more. So how have you created your own version of heaven in your communities when it's oftentimes not accessible to us?
So it's
no one can answer the question. It's hard, people. It's hard.
So in this video, what I did was when we look at Lee and Selika, when I look at Lee and Selika, I see two people who genuinely care and admire each other. And in some way, we witness the everyday ordinariness of friendship, what is often not commented on about Black queer people and their lives. And their lives are all of the quality that make up the ideas or practices of affection, such as caring, tenderness, love, fondness, and so on. But to be affected is also about the ways in which, for example, disease or displacement can affect one's life. And these two things, displacement and disease, especially the queer community like HIV/AIDS, have been central to Black queer life and have produced forms of affection among Black queers that are admirable. So I also wanted to capture those forms of affection in their lives. This discussion of Selika's bringing home other queers of color is one of those examples. Right?
Yeah. We move on to Keisha, if you're able to answer the question too.
I love this question. It's really great. Like, I love that it's hard because I think we spend a lot of time, identifying, and rightly so, identifying and talking about what's not working so that we can change it. But we also need to think about what is working or what could work and what feels good. So thank you for this question, Mahlet. I think my answer is that things don't feel like heaven a whole lot right now, to be honest. And I'm working on that. But I do also feel like there's a radical difference between certain experiences that I have. So I'm an actor, and I go on to sets with varying levels of safety, I would say, like physically, emotionally, spiritual safety. And so when I am able to write and direct and walk on set that I am responsible for, that feels really good. And I would say close to heavenly, because I'm able to shift the experience in a way that I believed was possible, but I wasn't able to really see it happen until I was in that director's chair, and able to be like, hey, like that actually, we don't talk to each other like that on this set. And PAs are important on this set, and et cetera, right? Like, we don't overwork our, the folks that are like giving us their talent and, you know, all these things. I'm able to kind of rejig in my own, on my own sets. And that has felt really wonderful and beautiful.
Amazing. We'll go with Natalie, then we'll go to Io, and then we'll close out the conversation.
I'm glad everyone else went to answer that question first. So I agree with Keisha. There's a way that, you know, in creating the conditions for the video, filming itself is key to that, and to not be extractive in the process, right? And so recognizing that people are coming with a craft, right? And that I need to recognize that and acknowledge it, and you know, and make sure I pay them, you know, as much as I could possibly do given the budget. So that's one piece. But then the other piece is in my film, in my video, you know, the actors go through time struggling with or facing struggles and challenges, right? And then getting to a place, and in that, the fragmentation that happens is very much the kinds of lives that we lead, where, you know, in certain places, oh, we only want your Blackness, we only want your, you know, queerness, we only want, right? And so there are so many ways in which we're fragmented, and searching for integrity or a place where you could actually be whole and be seen as whole and be cared for in that way is heaven, right? It's that place of safety, and it's that place of, you know, and, you know, home, right? And so I try to actually get at that with the video itself, the ways in which we are broken, and the ways in which we continue to struggle to bring ourselves together. And we're constantly doing that, which is something, you know, like, this is amazing amongst Black community, amongst Black queer community.
Right. Amazing. Aya?
Yeah, I feel a little bit more equipped to answer this question now. Again, yeah, like I want to echo what everyone else was saying, and especially a lot of the stuff that Keisha was saying around care. But I think the reason I was struggling maybe with this question a little bit was like, how do I create heaven in communities? Which I was like, oh my gosh. And I think I've kind of tried to come into my role a little bit more in community as and what I can do. And it's very much to support people who are doing work to continue and follow, like when there is a fire in me to do something, because I know that that's a calling and a responsibility to do something, but otherwise to be supportive of people and provide kind of like holistic care. But mostly what I feel comfortable doing is being a storyteller, and the ways that I've at least hope that I can contribute through my craft is by giving people something to look at that doesn't hurt them, but that speaks to, like, even when we're speaking to our experiences as Black queer folks, like, I don't want to show you something that's going to harm you. I don't want you to like to look at the thing that is harming you. I don't want to make it face you, but I'm willing to invite you into a space where you can possibly sit with that harm, but you are not being harmed over and over again. Like, I don't want to excavate or pull something out of you that you don't want pulled out of you, but the way that I can tell you a story. And I think that is the closest maybe I hope to get to heaven on like earth, is like to try and be cared for holistically and be seen, because I recognize that the conditions we're under are not heaven. So it's like very important for me to be like, I'm not erasing everything. I just want you to be with me in a moment. And if I need to take you to a fantastical place, then maybe I'll do that. But if I need to and show you through metaphor or something, I'll do that. But if I need to be real with you in a film, then maybe I'll do it in a way, and it's going that extra mile and doing extra stuff so that you're not leaving there shaking. You're leaving like seen, at least.
No, that's amazing. No, that was a perfect answer. All the answers are.
I'm glad I sat with it. I'm glad I was honest.
But
like,
we have to wrap up and stuff. But thank you so much, everyone, for your time, your energy, your answers. It's amazing people be in conversation with you all and talk about your films. I'm very grateful to be a part of this incubator and talk about your films, and hope to collaborate with you all in the future, as I'm in the Prairies and y'all are in Ontario. So one day, but yeah, Wanda will take over now.
Come visit. We'll visit.
Yeah, yes, come to Winnipeg, please. We love that. We need more Black queer community out here, please.
Thank you so much, Mahlet. That was really, I think that last question was such a great way to end the conversation. Being able to listen and care for and really watch out for. It's like, it's part of our, especially right now. I mean, we're in such a controversial kind of time and such an important undertaking. So I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to also quickly actually just introduce the artist and their titles. Abdi Osman had to leave. He had another obligation, but Abdi Osman was just with us, and Abdi's title is Black Queer Affection, and it's a really incredible work. Keisha Williams, Red Lips, Cages for Black Girls. Natalie Wood, thank you so much, Natalie. Time Will Come is Natalie's title. And Ayo Satib Daraba has the title Kiki with Bobby Bowen. Thank you so much, Ayo. It's been such a pleasure to communicate with you and to see your work. So I would just like to sign off, I guess, right now, to invite everyone to stay tuned to the program. Watch the program. It's going to be up for another 2 weeks. Please invite anyone that you think would be interested to access the program. It's available publicly for the next 2 weeks for free. And again, join us on October 21st, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Program 3, which has been curated by Ashley Raguabir. And I think, I did want to make a note about the captions. All of the work is closed caption. You can turn on or off on Vimeo. And I wanted to mention Black Queer Affection, because Abdi and I have been working on the captions for that particular title. And right now, the version that we have up, because we still need to make corrections, requires corrections. And I just wanted the audience to be aware that we are aware that there are a number of like typos and some kind of unusual interpretations, I think I can say, of some of the language. So, but the corrections are coming very soon, and they will be up online by the end of this week. So please enjoy the program, and I look forward to hopefully speaking and communicating with you all in the future. Thank you so much, Mahlet Cuff. We're so grateful. Good night. Thank you.